Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Online here. Mark here with you beauties for a nice little, I'm not going to call it a countdown, but look back and check in on the state of team loyalty across all major regions. We are looking at the longest tenured players on a single team in each region, and again, this is active players. So we're not going historically, guys like Sneaky, guys like Clear Love, guys that are currently still playing and have been with their squads for the longest time.
Yeah, but we do got to give that early little shout out recognition to guys like, as you said, Sneaky and Clear Love that have spent a ton of time with one organization, very identifiable with it. We are looking at the current stage of League of Legends, what we have on the global path, and what we can see here is it's very hard to find these franchise players, this type of loyalty, this stability within a person, an individual in an organization. But we have a couple of standout members to talk about across all the major regions of the globe. Let's dive into it.
And let's get over with early the black sheep of them all. Yet another record book. Yes. Faker, of course, he's the longest tenured in any region. You know, we're already north of a decade, going on 12, heading into 13 years with SKT, with T1, and I mean, no one's ever going to scratch this record. That's it.
It will never be matched. It's not possible to come through and deliver not only the individual performances that justify hanging with an organization for this long and having the successful periods that Faker has had within the T1 dynasty, but you look back on it and you go, how rare is it to find an organization that can match up with a player, keep up with those contracts, keep up with demands as far as, appearances, global status, as far as performance and other bringing in other players. It really is kind of this unbelievable match that you've had between these two organizations in the LCK. Faker, of course, at the front of it. At this point, I'm willing to almost not even associate Faker with T1, which is crazy because that is the main and only association you have with him. I'm more so just looking at him as the League of Legends franchise player, not a franchise player for an individual organization. He's the game's franchise player is the way I look at Faker. And man, you can go and take the whole year career that he has been playing this game. That's how I would put it to the test.
And it cannot be overstated how integral he is to the brand of T1. They're basically synonymous. T1 being the most popular brand, most popular organization, and Faker, I mean, the guy's a minority owner in the team. You know you're important to the squad when they say, yeah, as part of your contract, we'll just slide you in as a minority owner for this one. So who knows how high this number is eventually going to get up to, but even a player reaching 10 years, a decade with a single organization is unheard of. Even in traditional sports, it's pretty rare for anything like that to happen. So after you get to Faker, though, because we'll do the longest tenure for each region, but got to at least look at number 2. This is a case in point in how quickly time is moving on, because Showmaker has been with the Dom1 D plus Kia organization for more than 7 years, Mark.
And just also to paint kind of the picture as you were talking, the 12 years and now 7 years here for Showmaker, you're looking in professional baseball, Major League Baseball. You hit 5 years with a single team, they start to give you a no trade, no movement clause, because they're recognizing how special it is to stay in that one spot, stay in that commitment with the team and find that partnership. Enter Showmaker, and you're talking about in the legacy, in the incredibly long shadow of Faker and that relationship with T1. It's unbelievable that we have had Showmaker and his young talent stay within the D plus Dam1 Kia organization this whole time. Truly another sign of that loyalty. And both of them, again, similar to a Faker T1 type of situation, have flourished and risen together in the LCK.
And there's been multiple times, multiple off seasons where I feel like there's either been rumors or people have been anticipating Showmaker moving on to greener pastures, because there's been some down years, some lean years with that Dom1 organization, and then Canyon, his right-hand man and best buddy, leaves, and it seemed like the writing was on the wall for Showmaker to move on as well, but he has stayed loyal to this organization, and yeah, it just it makes you feel old when you remember the young prospect Showmaker, and now he's the wily veteran with the best copy pastas in the league.
I'm thinking it's like a Game of Thrones. He's the Jaime Lannister there, and then he's bringing in Bronn. That's who they're bringing in.
Mm.
They're bringing in the mercenary barrel to the bottom lane to shore things up. He's been feeling, I'd say, reinvigorated with the youth that has come through to this team in the jungle and in the top side, and very much so. It seems more so happy days than some of the dark times that we have had within this relationship for both of them. But it has been a very long and very committed relationship from both Showmaker and the Damwon Kia side. Very nice to recognize it and take a little trip down memory lane to say, wow, how long really has it been since we were talking about Damwon roaring onto the scene and Showmaker as this unmissable prospect.
And what's crazier beyond him is then, I mean, longest tenured after that, third place, you're looking at Kyria on T1. Obviously, he landed there a little bit before Guma and Owner, but that core of T1 is now like the third most longest tenured players on one org.
It's fun. This is the storybook chapters just flipping on through of the LCK's chronology here, because you go from Faker, Showmaker, and then you flip the page over and it's the brand new T1 dynasty, and it all starts with Kyria stepping into that bottom lane for the team. This was a move, a joining of forces that we talked about heading into it, of that what unbelievable potential and talent we saw with Kyria with DRX, and recognizing that this player, this individual, is going to be something special if you can get him supported with an organization that pushes, that strives for the ultimate prize at the very end, like T1 has with the partnership of Faker. You can see something special, and boy, have we seen something special from this current T1 dynasty.
We've seen, again, that loyalty. 7 and 12 years is the longest, basically, or at least some of the longest on this entire list. When you look at the LPL, it's clear that there's a lot more musical chairs going on in China, and much more rare for players to be sticking around with one team for a long time, because the longest active player with an organization, it's Jackie Love on Top Esports, just north of 5 years, which is crazy that he's already been on TES for half a decade. But the fact that it's Jackie Love here, you know, a guy like Kanavi or Mako were on a team for so long, but have recently moved to different squads. But Jackie Love being here is a bit of a twist.
Yeah, Jackie taking the spot in this situation. It is a little bit surprising, but it is one of those ones that forces you to check and realize that, yes, you had the success, you had the immediate championship of 2018 with Invictus Gaming, and then the transition, the move over to being with Top Esports here, and the commitment that has stayed through this Top Esports. And as you laid out before it, yes, the musical chairs are real in the LPL. Everybody is swapping around, trying to retool, trying to find the right combination to be at that next level of competitiveness. Top Esports, no stranger to that as well, have certainly mixed and matched the lineups and tried to figure things out, but that consistent, that standard that has stayed through has been Jackie Love. And it has been all the highs and highs that you can have with Jackie Love, of insane damage games and kills and popping off. And we've also had Senna ultimates backwards. So it's been a whole bag for Jackie Love, but he has been committed and stayed through it with Top Esports as their franchise guy.
And obviously, when he joined the squad, it was Knight's team. It was 369 as a young guy, and Jackie Love was kind of the older veteran coming in. And now, since then, 369 has left and come back because Jackie Love's been on this team so long.
And it has become Jackie Love's team. That is the identity that you look at when you talk about this Top Esports team, even with something like Kanavi in the jungle, able to drive as an engine. 369, you mentioned returning to the team. Jackie Love is the one that you mentioned, that you tie with the organization of Top Esports, and that goes with having that commitment for 5 years in as crazy a landscape as the LPL is, with swapping players around.
And I mean, case in point, the guy with the next highest time on a single squad is missing on JDG. And again, Kanavi just came over to TES. He would have been ahead of both Jackie Love and Missing. But Missing here is, I think, a tough test or quiz for anyone to answer, that he's been on JDG for north of 3 years.
I'm dreading it right now, giving you this idea, but maybe save that for the "Who am I?" later on. Throw it in there. How many years have I stayed with the same team in the LPL, and
Give
I'm
it
not
about a week,
Jackie
and you'll
Love?
probably forget that it was missing.
Oh, give it like an hour. I'm
Yeah.
gonna forget this one, man. No way. Missing it's a little bit strange because yes, he has had that longevity, and there is some tie with the team. I think his performance and the struggles of JDG to not really hit the ultimate elite tier of the LPL brings a little bit of a question mark status around that one, but still important to check in and kind of use it. I think comparatively different than the other leagues. This chapter book, the LPL one that you're going through and flipping through and checking it out with these players, it almost is just going through the different power eras of this league as you're going through. You can look at top esports and find their power pretty regularly through those 5 years. Jackie Love, flip through missings, you can find some power for JDG. And then you take the next step down, and we're looking at Bin with BLG as the very top dogs.
Yeah, and he's only got like 6 months extra. Most of the rest of this BLG roster, Elk and On came at the same time. He had, remember, it was the mid split after he was on RNG, and we felt bad for Bin going to BLG. Obviously, that trajectory completely changed. But it's guys like Xiaohu on Weibo, too. There's a bunch of guys who have been on a squad for more than 2 years, but less than 3.
Yeah, and I think it's a fun time to actually take a step back and look back at that transaction that went through because yes, at the time we were wondering, but it ended up relatively working out for both of the teams at the end of the day. RNG got breathed and they were able to find success with him, and here we are 2+ years
A
later.
lot
with
better for
BLG.
Bin the last 2 years.
And they are absolutely enjoying the success, the thrills, the excitement that come with having a player like Bin in the top side, patrolling for you in the LPL.
LEC side of things, this is probably the easiest one for people to guess without, just off the top of your head, you'd say, okay, who's the longest tenured guy on a single squad? And immediately, it's the face of the entire league and the face of Western League of Legends. Of course, we're talking about Caps. I think when he left Fnatic, it would have been insane to say this guy's going to be on G2 for, 6+ years and become the face of the entire league. But here we are.
You nailed it. I was totally surprised when we have looked back on this one and seen him become that icon, that franchise piece, and probably one of the only players I could say is that comparable to Faker and his shadow that he casts on that long 12 years with the T1 organization. And my association with, you don't just look at him as Faker and T1, you look at him as Faker and the game of League of Legends. I think you can extend the player Caps and associating him with the league, the association of the LEC is certainly a fair one to do with how he has carved out his career. But with G2, very surprised that he ended up staying all the way through. I thought at the initial changeover from Fnatic, this was going to be a player that really was, again, pursuing the ultimate prize, the ultimate strength and greatness with his own region. And that would come with the ruthlessness of being a mercenary and stepping, from team to team to team, operation to operation. That's not been the case. He has been a loyal G2 samurai all the way through, experiments and everything else with this team all the way around. He has been with it and been committed to the G2 org.
Even when they said, sorry, bud, Perks got bored bot, you have to go bot lane for a split and play Kog'Maw and Ziggs down there. Cap said, okay, it's only fair. I'll do it for a single split, but then get me the hell out of there.
Yeah, and I think we're all pretty happy that it was only for a single split that that experiment went on. Not because it didn't have some successes, but I think we all can agree that the maximizing of the potential is within the mid lane for Caps. And as he has been that standout icon for the LEC for over half a decade now.
The crazier one in Europe is there's a guy who has been on the same organization basically the exact same time as Caps. He signed in December instead of November, and I'd forgive you if you wouldn't recall this because his team has rebranded so many times. But Larson on Rogue, through the times on Koi, he won an LEC title. At times you had him number 2 right behind Caps, but he's been on this team for 6 years plus.
I feel like this is, serving a tray of drinks to the viewer, and then one of them is poisoned. And that is the Larson situation here with Rogue, because it's unfortunate because you look at all these other ones, and it is usually a situation where the commitment to the player is matched with the organization. Both of them find a way to rise up together. One lifts the other up and all sorts of things like that. It has not been the case in this situation. I think, yes, there has to be obviously some pressure and onus put on a player Larson individually, but I think it doesn't take a real Sherlock Holmes genius to sleuth out with Rogue what has been going on and the downfalls, and to see that a player like Larson is at the same type of commitment time to an organization, minus what, 1 month to a legend like Caps, and all that has gone on with Caps and G2, and you look at the trajectory and path of how things have gone with Larson and what Rogue has done for him, not the same.
Yeah, it really does feel like both Rogue and Larson could benefit from perhaps a bit of a change. Larson on a new org, Rogue changing something up. It does really feel like a complacency thing more than we have Caps. There's no possible way to upgrade this. We will keep him on the roster for as long as we can. There's a big drop off between Larson. We're talking 3 years. There's a couple of mainstays all sitting around 3 years, 3 months with the same org. That's Nuke on BDS, which really snuck up on you. And how about Razork and Humanoid? They joined Fnatic together and have been locked together ever since.
And I think kind of the interesting one when you do examine the LEC compared to the LPL and LCK that we've rolled through is when you're talking about this one, it really seems like it's almost trying to find that answer. None of the other ones were about trying to find the answer to who the other guy on top of the list was type of situation. Nuke's time with BDS, Humanoid and Razork with Fnatic seem like an organization searching for that answer. How do we top? How do we match up with Caps and his stay with G2? How do you reach that type of level? Still chasing it is the way it seems for both of these organizations. But I think it is important to recognize Nuke's time with BDS has been a very committed one and has been one that has, I think, in comparison to Larson that we just talked about, been a beneficial one for both the player and the organization as they've worked together. Razork and Humanoid is almost a strange one because it feels like it's been longer, but I realize, it was initially the impression and, positivity out of that first year around. And then kind of the next 2, almost 3 years now have been talking about the same problems and pitfalls that we run into with them leading the spear for Fnatic.
Yeah, it feels like you could pull clips from them from 2023, 2024, 2025, and you'd be talking about the same positives and negatives for them as a teammate duo on Fnatic. LTA side of things, again, it's probably 2 guys you could guess who have been around for a long time, and they were both faces of the league at times and kind of still. But when we had Blabber and Svenskeren initially splitting time in the jungle, who would have thunk that Blabber would become the face of the LCS and the longest standing member? We're cheating a little bit because we're going back to 2017 when he first signed with C9 Academy, but it was still the same organization, so still counts.
Gets a little bit of that extra help in here to bump him past the next guy, but I'll let it slide for this one because we love Blabber and we love his partnership with Cloud9. I think that's one to talk about here. He has been a guy that I think right from the get-go when he entered into the LCS at the time, everyone really felt that his attitude, his personality, it matched up perfect with Cloud9, the type of memes and jokes that were going on at the time. Of course, this was still the sneaky Jensen era of Cloud9.
The for fun region.
Yeah. But we have seen Blabber really take the lead at times for this C9 organization before you're bringing in Perks. And even with Perks there, he is one of the leading guys that you were talking about for this team in the option. Berserker comes in, all sorts of things. But here is the standard. Here is the stable of Cloud9. And that has been Blabber as that top jungler for the team.
And he's really never been the guy you're calling to change on Cloud9. And it seems that the organization...
Outside of Scuttlecraps.
Except for one MSI tournament. That was the main one. Main thing you got to change. But seems like Cloud9 has been pretty loyal to him. And then right behind him is, of course, Captain America himself, Core JJ. Picked up a couple of MVPs ever since he joined Team Liquid in 2019, and he is the go-to leader and veteran to look towards in the LCS.
Yeah, and this really is an impressive one, and one of those ones where it does deserve an extra little shout out, little separation here to acknowledge that this has been a very agreeable partnership between Team Liquid and Core JJ. Of course, both flourishing and gaining from it. But I think Core JJ really has shown a commitment and love and appreciation for the Team Liquid organization, the opportunity that they've given them, the type of resources and support that they do put in to the organization. I think that has been a big part of it, and still with his drive to improve the LCS LTA region as a whole, having that backing from your organization, that commitment of resources and all these type of things as well. I think that is part of that partnership, why we have seen it last so long and be such an agreeable one for both parties.
And we've seen Core JJ be a guy constantly trying to push forward the region as a whole, let alone just Team Liquid. So an absolute perfect ambassador for the game, which is, again, why Team Liquid has shown him so much loyalty. Lastly, the LCP. Maple is retired. He had stints in the LPL and on some old team named Team Solomid. I don't remember what league they were actually in, but we're looking to the Gigabyte Marines, and initially you would say, well, for sure it's Levi. He's been there over 5 years, almost 6 years, but Kiaya has actually been with the squad longer than him, partially because Levi also had a little trip to NA with 100 Thieves.
Yeah, that's the kicker there. That's the one thing that changes things up, because yes, without that one, it's Levi unquestioned for the LCP with the Marines, but it's a nice one to get that little bit of a extra little twist, little flair in this one to throw Kiaya in there and get that recognition of what he's done for himself in that time period to step up and take over the reins, I think, really for Levi with Gam at the time, until Levi returns to the organization and picks up really where he left off for them. Important to give these two that recognition and to notice that they have had that long, steady commitment to the Marines as that organization within the region.
And it is a bit poetic that it's both of these guys who have been linked together for the majority of their career. And Kiaya even been willing to swap into that mid lane for a split, just doing whatever the organization needed for them. He obviously represented Vietnam at the Asian Games in 2022. So, yeah, fitting that both of these guys are paired together on a list like this. But if Maple was still playing, if you collectively added his time on PSG/Flash Wolves, you know that he would be at the top of this list. But that's not the case, and that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Beautiful people, thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll catch you on that flippity.